By federal standards, 6% of the state lacks access to high-speed internet. FCC data showed that in 2017, that gap widened all across the valley, including in Union County, where an estimated 21% lacks such access. Why or why not is the availability of broadband internet critical in rural parts of Union County, and what steps, if any, should county government take to address the issue?
As I've frequently said, I'm a little leery of our current infatuation with technology and this idea that the internet can solve all problems, but at the same time there's plainly a divide between people who have access to high-speed internet access and people who don't. So I'm definitely in favor of using county and other governmental resources to try to expand access to broadband like the federal government did in the 20s with electricity. The main specific, not pie in the sky, but specific technology I've heard of that seems to have some potential is line of sight, and the current county commissioners are already working on this. What's missing is an institution in the western part of the county who could kind of create the other end of a line so that we could create some sort of through the air by radio wave line of sight transmission system. It occurred to me if we can create a positive enough relationship with Center County government, we might be able to talk to Penn State, and maybe between Bucknell in the east and Penn State on the west, it might be to both counties' benefit to team up and create some sort of line of sight system.
Union County Commissioners went 8 years without a tax increase to its general fund, before a slight increase entering 2017. The board held the line in the 2 budget years since. In what scenarios, if any, do you think a tax increase may be unavoidable, and do you foresee that playing out over the coming 4-year term?
Well, the main thing has to do with the Great Stream Commons, and this is a liability Union County took on a dozen years ago or so. The economic climate was different. The expectations were, somewhat ambitious for what would occur, but there are various bonds associated with that are coming due. I have to confess I'm not familiar with the exact timing, but I think it's likely that one of these payments will come due in the next couple of years, and whoever is serving on the county commissioners board is going to have to deal with it at that time. We have to fulfill our obligations, so I don't think there would be any choice but to do what we needed to do to get the money to make those payments. Hopefully we'll have some movement on Great Stream Commons and it'll start making money instead of costing money. The other thing, or other things that might be legitimate expenditures of tax dollars would especially include this broadband initiative. If we have to invest a little bit of money so that all of our residents can have access to the internet, I think that's a worthwhile investment.
What do you believe to be the most pressing issue facing Union County residents, and do you have a plan to address it?
Gee whiz, that's a big question. The most pressing issue, I guess most of the things I can think of are profoundly unsexy. So, for instance, poor people are moving into Union County in greater numbers than in the past, and we can't have homeless people, so we may need to redirect some resources toward human services, toward healthcare access, and things like that. It's something you can see coming. You can look at the demographics and you can plan on it. It may not be something that people want to do or think is exciting, but still you either plan for it and don't have too big a problem, or you don't plan for it and you have a big mess in your lap. The other thing is climate change. Plainly our weather has shifted. I've already stated in several public interviews that I'm very concerned with the high winds. Not just on Sunday, but all spring we've had very, very high winds. And if we become an environment where flooding is less an issue than high winds and brush fires, then that's going to require a reconfiguration of our emergency services, how we're directing our resources, what we're doing training in, where we're seeking help from other entities on.
What do you believe to be an issue that's under the radar that maybe people aren't talking about that you might have a plan to address as well?
I think mostly the issue of poverty and the issue of people coming here for quality of life, or coming here because they have family attachments and being disabled, or not being trained for the current workforce. To a great extent, the county is going to be a pass-through for money with this. We're not going to create a bunch of new funding for these kinds of programs, but although our General Assistance Office, does a good job, they're likely to need more support in coming years as this trend continues. We already have some fine career training institutes in this area, but we may need to partner with them in some way. So I'm sorry to say I don't have a big plan, but I do have an awareness of it. I'm trying to familiarize myself with what the county's resources are, who the personnel are, and trying to see how we can maximize what we've got.
Why do you believe Union County voters should choose you to become a county commissioner?
I think that I have proven myself in the public sphere. I've served 8 years on Borough Council. I was the chairman of LARA when we were designing and building the rail trail. I have numerous accomplishments during my time on Borough Council. I also chaired the Shade Tree Commission when we were dealing with the emerald ash borer infestation. So, it's not all fun things like building a rail trail, but also difficult things like cutting down 220 old trees and trying to replace them with very little money. I also have the longest ties to this area of any of the Democrats anyway. I grew up here. My family has been here for 60 years, and I know a lot of people, and I have friends throughout the county at all different levels, from Bucknell professors to ginseng collectors in western Union County. I love this area, and I feel a responsibility to give something back and to serve my neighbors.
Trey, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Eric.